The 2025 indoor season for track and field is officially over, and it was a very entertaining year. We saw a few key world records go down, we saw the rise of many great middle distance athletes, and this year's World Indoor Champs was certainly a promising event moving into this year's championship season. But now the outdoor season has officially arrived, and even though it is very typical to see significantly faster times from many big names hitting the scene, that is not what we witnessed over this past weekend, because even though the 2022 world champion in the 100 meters made his season debut, he ran significantly slower than many people expected. At this year's Trojan Invite in the University of Southern California, we saw none other than Fred Kerley towing the track to make his 100-meter season debut. Now, this kind of season debut is typically a pretty big deal. Back in 2022, Kerley opened his season with a 100 time of 9.99 seconds. And following that in 2023, he opened his season with another impressive clocking of 9.91. And in 2024, he opened his year with a time of 10.03. So there was really only one expectation, and that's that Fred Kerley would either get right on 10 seconds or break the 10-second barrier. However, that is certainly not what happened, because after getting off to a fair start, it seemed as though he was running with his typical speed. But even though he was competing against a few collegiate athletes, he wasn't quite able to separate himself. And that's because he ran a time of 10.23 seconds, which is far and away the slowest season debut in the 100 he has ever had. In fact, even if we go all the way back to 2021, which was really the first year where he began competing competitively in the 100, he started his year with a time of 10.11, which he ran on March 20th in 2021 in Miami, Florida. But even though he was last year's bronze medalist, and even though he was the world champ in 2022, he just did not run that well in this year's Trojan Invite. Now, a lot of people have responded to this season opener with a lot of questions. What exactly is happening with Fred Kerley? Was he injured? Was he not running 100%? Was the wind crazy? What exactly happened that led to this 10.23? To answer these questions, no, he was not injured. The wind was only negative 0.5, so it really shouldn't slow you down all the way to 10.23, and it does appear as though he was running pretty close to all out. Perhaps not giving it that 100% effort, but it did look as though he was really trying. Now, I do want to point out something very important, and that's that people are not supposed to run that fast for their season openers, at least not this early in March. But for Kerley, running this time does raise a lot of questions, and it honestly does make me wonder as to whether or not he really is going to hit his previous form this season, and if he does, how long will it take? It's also worth mentioning that 2025 is going to be a very, very long season, because the World Champs are this year in September, so getting off to a quick start, say dropping a time of 9.99, is not really that big of a deal right now. So perhaps Kerley is just in a heavy mode of training right now, and he really wasn't ready to race that fast. He just wanted to get out on the track and get some experience and compete against some fellow 100 athletes. No matter which way you look at it, a 10.23 is just not a time that you would expect from someone like Fred Kerley. But then again, Kerley has been known to throw some curveballs into the equation, so perhaps this is a bigger part of his master plan to once again get on the podium come the World Champs this season. Anyways, I would love to hear your thoughts on this whole issue. It is an interesting one, and Fred Kerley does do some things that are quite atypical for a track athlete. But with that in mind, thank you again for watching, and as always, until next time.